Hello. Welcome to Armenia. Yeah, welcome to Yerevan. We have traveled 1,000 miles from Africa, from Europe, from Asia, from Americas. That's a big achievement. Let's give you a round of applause, everyone. And I just found a parking spot right in front of this hotel, so that's a big deal too, all right?
I know this is kind of an unusual thing, and this is kind of new and weird for us too. I mean, U.S. government brings so many comedians in Yerevan. There must be a trick. We're still waiting for a trick. Okay, we keep our eyes open. What's going to happen here? So I guess what we're going to do is we're just going to present our part, our share of contribution to the world of comedy from Armenia, and we'll see how that can be useful.
And we're going to answer that question: can comedy really bring change? Because that's what we are here to find out. We met about 10 years ago. That's how we looked like 10 years ago, and we were working on USAID funded development project. Sergei was tackling corruption, and I was tackling elections. So two of the more disturbing or important kinds of spheres, and we worked on it really hard. And did it bring change?
Mm-hmm. So the way I see is that we are in comedy now because we started working for the US government on democracy projects, and we found that the most useful, influential way to affect corruption and democracy was through comedy.
Yeah, so we started a website 10 years ago. We started this website that was very much inspired by what The Onion does. We started doing articles satirizing the news, and in a couple of years it turned into a TV show that's been in its 8th season right now, which is basically like, if you've seen The Daily Show, you've pretty much seen that. We've been talking about politics ever since, and there were some big stories that were happening while we were on air and writing the articles, and that's why we want to answer this question. Can we really bring change with comedy?
So the answer is maybe, I guess, a little kind of, in some ways, you never know.
So one of the stories was the government, about 5 years ago, purchased this toilets. These are toilets.
Bio toilets.
Two bio toilets. And if you try to guess what the price of this is, your best estimation. $500,000. You're very damn close. It's about $500,000 for a set of 2 toilets. But they had one small, tiny, how do you say it, dysfunction or something. They didn't work.
None of them worked. They were very fancy, expensive. When you got in, there was a report of a journalist getting in. There is great music.
Fascinating music.
Inside.
The lighting
was amazing, but it didn't function.
It might have a karaoke inside. The problem was it never worked.
I mean, people still used it as a toilet, but not from inside. So that was a big fail for the government, and taxpayer money was wasted.
Yeah, and the government was about to import another 10 of these with the ridiculous price of $200,000 per each. But then the media took this story, and we had our fair share in it. We ridiculed it to the point that they decided, well, okay, we'll keep these 2 because they're already purchased, and they didn't go on further with this.
Just to give you an idea of how things were in Armenia back then when we were starting this political satire movement, if you like. We were new on Facebook, and we had like 100 friends or something, and we wrote, and there was this infamous sugar monopoly in Armenia. Who is aware of sugar monopoly in Armenia? Well, it was a big deal. There was this one guy who could import sugar, and I wrote a status on Facebook after the second mobile operator came to Armenia, a cellular mobile operator, and I said, oh, maybe a second sugar importing operator will come to Armenia, haha. And then suddenly my friends started calling me saying, are you crazy? You're gonna get hurt. Remove your post from the Facebook. So, well, the guy didn't see, I had like 100 friends, nothing happened, but that's how the feeling was in the air when we started this thing. So it was kind of scary in the beginning.
Yeah. But we gave up sugar just in case, if something might happen. Another news story that sort of broke, it was about, this was the previous mayor of Yerevan, and it turned out every year they were buying cognac. Have you tasted cognac already? Armenian cognac, the world famous, Winston Churchill's favorite drink. Okay, Armenian cognac is a big thing, we get it, but they were buying $30,000 worth of it every year and giving it away.
And we basically were paying for that, so we thought might as well joke about that. So we grilled a little bit the town hall, the mayor for that, and it was people laughed and stuff. So by that point we were not sure how comedy was affecting decision makers. But then suddenly July 4th happened, and what is July 4th? Who knows? America's birthday. But more importantly, in Armenia, it's when the U.S. Embassy throws a party for all the activists, all the public figures, politicians, opposition, government, and ironically, comedians as well. So we were there. So we were walking. There is stuff. There's cool party and everything.
So you mentioned the entire cast of our show is there. Yeah. Every politician,
the government, the parliament, the media, everyone is there. And suddenly, the mayor shows up, and he's like, we had an eye contact, and he was like, I saw that little scared twinkle in his eyes, and I said, and I approached, and I said, Mayor, Mr. Markarian, if you're looking for cognac, they don't serve it here. They spare money, the taxpayer money, and he's like, Sergei, and he's like, do you know how much hard time I got after your show? And he got into details which I cannot bring here, but I realized that he got so many phone calls and such a, can I say shitstorm in here? It is a shitstorm here. Such a shitstorm that, and he was like, please don't do that. I get shitstorm for that. Okay. Oh, then, okay, yeah, sure, I won't do that again. But that was such a motivation that obviously I took it as a hint as to how much the influence of a simple series of jokes about cognac can go. And they really cut down on their cognac buying.
Yeah. So that's the difference between American shows and shows here in Armenia. When Jon Stewart or Trevor Noah jokes about Trump or somebody, that's it. Yeah. He wouldn't go to the supermarket the next day and then meet Trump's grandmother there, and she wouldn't tell him, why did you do that? But with us, it's the daily thing, Somebody calls, well, you joked about my son, and said, well, he did buy an island, And then she goes, it was a very small island. So this is our sort of daily thing. For satire to happen, it is very important to know that it needs to be grounded on something that actually happened. That's the thin line between satire and fake news. Because if something doesn't happen, well, it's just fake news. So once the church went into the university and blessed one of the new faculties that was open there, and Sergei decided to respond to that.
So we used we had by then the Armenian version of the Onion style website, and that was misperceived, and people thought it's for real. So I wrote that,
even though it has ArmComedy right there.
Yeah, right there in the name. So what was happening? The Ministry of Education was going to universities and doing blessing ceremonies of mathematics faculty or economics faculty.
Economics.
And I thought it was kind of weird, and I thought I'd push it a little further. So I said this infamous then priest did a blessing of the next year's budget of Armenia with a very special prayer for keeping inflation within 5%, and a special smoke to invite 30% investment increase, and very detailed and very journalistic style. So we had a good laugh. Next day I get a call. Hello, is this Sergei? Yes, we're calling you from the church. It's the church, and I'm an assistant to the bishop. And yes. And well, you wrote an article that we blessed the budget for the next year. So, yes. Well, I'm calling to tell you that we didn't. Well, it's satire, it's comedy, it's actually in the name. That's why we actually sacrificed the irony, putting the comedy in the name. Yeah, I understand that it's a joke, but the government keeps calling us all morning, asking why did you bless the budget? Apparently the government didn't get the joke, so could you remove your article? I'm like, no, of course we're not. Like, oh, we will sue you. Yes, please, be my guest. And after a lot of while, they said, no, please, no, come, let's find a compromise. We don't, we don't want problems. Could you just write a disclaimer that it's a joke? I said, yeah, retraction. Yeah, it's kind of disclaimer at the end. So I wrote, okay, fine. So at the end, I put a giant disclaimer that this is a satiric article. In reality, the church has not blessed the budget to date. Okay, has not yet blessed the budget. So that kind of backfired again to them. Had another laugh and another proof of how influential this can be. This outlet.
Yeah, and basically you've seen this through the last years. The actual real news are becoming more and more crazy. Stuff is happening that you normally wouldn't believe. So we have to keep up at some point. And what actually happened is we started a little bit, to predict the events before they were happening. We predicted that the dollar rate would raise to 500 drams because it would be easier to count it that way. And it actually did. In 1 year, it actually got about to 500. And then we wrote that since people are spending too much on electricity bills, the government decided that the winter is going to be hotter this year. And there was a hot winter that year. And and you've seen this all around, right? The Simpsons pretty much predicted Trump about a decade ago. And back when they did it, well, nobody thought it would be possible. And even when Trump registered as a candidate, still everyone thought it would be impossible. And when we got this very special guest on our show, ArmComedy, even he, and Trump at that point was already a registered candidate, he thought, well, it's a stretch. He will never become a president. So let's see that. Can you play it?
And you made some predictions.
I made some predictions, yes.
You said certain things.
Oh, I know what you're going to talk about. Okay.
Video of that.
Oh, great. Let's show this. This was obviously early in the U.S. presidential election.
October, people.
And they were asking me some questions about what was going to happen. Let's take a look.
We are kind of following the campaign, the primaries in the U.S.
Yes.
And we noticed this guy, Donald Trump.
Yes.
And from here, from thousands of miles away, he looks kind of crazy.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
I'm just wondering, from up close, for Americans, does he seem more reasonable?
No.
Make
No.
some sense there?
No. It's crazy. It's crazy. We are as afraid as you are. We're all equally afraid. But he will not be president.
Explain yourself, Colin.
Listen, I'm right half the time.
So that's it, right half the time, and get back that nobody would believe it, right? In 2016, we started working on a screenplay for a movie that was called Head of State.
And since we were already in the business of prediction, we thought, okay, how would it look like if things changed dramatically in Armenian politics? And we imagined, what if a journalist, a reporter, got into politics and flipped everything around? What would be his first steps in reforming the government, his first decisions? And what did we get?
This is 2 years before the Velvet Revolution, the big change that happened here in Armenia. So yeah, we thought, what if a journalist becomes the head of the state? And then suddenly we get a journalist as a head of the state. And our journalist in the movie happens to be arrested right in the beginning, and so did Nikol Pashinyan. He got arrested right in the middle of this revolution. Then one of the first things him in the office was meeting the Georgian Prime Minister, and in the movie we saw, well, he might meet the Georgian Prime Minister. So he became Prime Minister. He was riding a lot of bicycle, and so was the guy in our movie below. He was riding a lot of bicycle. And Basically, then we predicted he would take out all the traffic fines. That's what Pashinyan promised. Then the character realizes, no, that the traffic fines were actually okay, so he restores them. And then he promises to shut down a mine in the movie. That's what happened here. And now they are debating about the reopening of the mine. And that is exactly what is happening today with the Save Amulsar movement. They're debating about reopening this mine. So that's spooky a little bit.
So from just online influencing to predicting and maybe just mapping out the future through comedy is the way that we've covered in the past 10 years. It's been 10 years. It was our ArmComedy's birthday last week. We were founded on September the 2nd, 2009. So thank you very much for being here.
So basically, can comedy create political change? No.
Kind of, maybe, yeah.
But it's damn well may predicted.
Thank you very much.